Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and this is the Astro Library. And we actually have a non-bookish video today, or like bookish adjacent, because your girl needs to get work done. So I'm sure you saw by the title, but we're gonna see how productive can I be in a single day for my dissertation, because I need to get this chapter done by the end of the month, and it is currently July 27th. So we're gonna dedicate whatever is left of today, which is not a whole ton of time, because as I'm recording this, it's about 12:40. I had a late start because I had a horrible night's sleep. But we're starting, and I'm just going to take you along on the journey to see how many words, how far I can get into this chapter, and hopefully a lot closer to finishing it. But I guess some extra background, because I've talked about being a PhD student on the channel before, and you've heard me mention my dissertation over and over and over again. But I don't know if I've actually given you any sort of insight onto like what is my dissertation, specifically what chapter are we focusing on. I have my dissertation thesis and I have the chapter thesis. That's going to kind of help give you a sense, hopefully, of what I'm trying to accomplish. So overall for my dissertation, I'm saying that despite like a lot of progressive movements where we're trying to make things like the archive and canon and literary studies and the critical field as a whole in English literature to be more progressive, it is still very much deeply rooted in white supremacy and the ways in which specifically we work within the archive and how we form the archive is very much riddled with problematic behaviors because of white supremacy, because of racism, and especially because of anti-Blackness. Because of that, the archive has led to this centering of white works over Black voices and Black authors, even as the critical fields seek to elevate it. So I am intervening by looking at the archive through what I'm calling passing narratives, or narratives and novels and stories that are written by Black folk that specifically focus on people who are able to pass racially. Usually they are Black, but they are able to pass as white because of their lighter skin tone. Or by having this ability to pass, they are entering into this form of liminality, or this kind of like blurring between lines that allows us to actually get a deeper insight into the archive and allow us to interrogate these racist anti-Black terminology. Generally, that's what my project is, right? In more simpler terms, I'm looking at how passing narratives written by Black folk really like crack open the archive in ways that it currently is not able to do. Now, that's the whole project. That is like 4 chapters worth of argument I gotta like build towards. We're not focusing on that in this video, because that would be, oh my God, I don't want to think about it. It'll be a lot. This chapter specifically is my very first chapter that is focusing on my major case studies, or like books that I'm interested in like breaking down and analyzing, and specifically talking about how in order to create an archive that is able to accurately understand and represent Blackness, we have to blur this line between fiction and reality. Because if we look at just fiction or we look at just reality, they're not able to fully encapsulate the Black experience, especially for folk who are able to pass, because they are constantly moving between fiction and reality. So the passing body becomes this kind of method that we can interrogate the archive, and is directly confronting the division between fact and fiction. Specifically when we look at things like the historical record that is like embedded into the archive. And when we are using passing to look at that, we are able to see these gaps within the archive and within the historical record and interrogate those archival terms and practices. The key works for this chapter, and this is what we're working on today, is a novel called Incognito by Matt Johnson. And I'm also looking at a escape narrative by William and Ellen Craft that is called Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom, where I'm coming at you now. And I'm not going to show you any of my screen just because I have my name blasted all over it and we don't need to dox ourselves. But I'm currently sitting at 4,771 words, which is roughly, I'm on the top of page 8, single spaced. And as I stand right now, barring a page full of sticky note edits that I gotta get through. I am done talking about my first novel, Incognegro, and I need to move on to my second novel. Hold on, let me turn you around really quick. If you look over here, you see these are my notes for my next book and what I have to talk about. We're gonna see how much this still makes sense to me, but we're just gonna go. And again, we're gonna work on this all day and see how far I get, see if the juices start flowing, because I'm butting up against my self-imposed deadline and it's creating too much anxiety. So we're gonna combat that today. So how this is gonna work, I have a spinning wheel, and this one I will make sure to screen record. So you can see on this wheel that we are breaking it down into words. So I'm going to be writing this many words before I can have a break. My options are a really nice one word, which usually I'll turn into like a full sentence, and then it's 50 words, 100 words, 250 words, and then 300 words. So we're gonna go ahead and roll, and then we're gonna see how many words we have to do before we earn our first break. And when we earn our break, I'll tell you how we will constitute that. But let's spin and see what we get. We are doing 100 words. That is a pretty easy go of it for this first round. Let's go ahead and just dive straight in. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Hello, I've just hit, I'm over my, my word count. I'm currently sitting at 4,924 words, which means I've gone over like 150, I think. Maybe just a little less, maybe a little more. So I've hit my goal of 100 words, which I can go ahead and cross that off. I went over because I had to get up a couple of times to go find a book. I specifically had to go find my copy of A Narrative Life of Frederick Douglass because I was referencing it, so I needed to find that so I could actually get the quote and get the page number and all that. So luckily that was not too hard to find. I had a vague idea of where it was. I've gotten to a point where I was kind of like fleshing out a transitional section in the paper in which I'm trying to transition between Incognito to Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom. But before I can get there, I'm trying to historicize this idea of Black narratives having to use fiction as a way of defining themselves and to kind of like accurately represent reality because they couldn't otherwise for various reasons. So where I'm leaving off is I'm just getting into one of my like critical texts, which if you want to know, the first one I'm talking about is Private Bodies, Public Texts by Casey Holloway. And this is just really looking at how the enslaved body was not allowed privacy and how because of that it has led to this like weird way where the body is tied to the legal definitions of slavery and Blackness, but also in the constructions of race, and how narratives were one of the few ways where Black authors and creators and people were able to define themselves outside of that without those like white supremacist laws. So that's where I'm going into next. It will probably tie into the several other critical texts I need, but I've earned my break. We're going to go back to our wheel, actually. I'm going to uncheck all my timers. With 100 words, I'm not going to check my longer times because I also have like a timer like, oh, work for an hour versus do word count. I have another wheel up, and this one is for how long my break is. So I have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and 30 minutes. So I was working for about an hour because it's now 1:37. So let's go ahead and spin this and see what we get. I'm not going to screen record this one because I can't be bothered. What will it be? Oh, looks like we're getting a longer break. We have 45 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and set a timer for 45 minutes and not think about this because if I do, I'm gonna stress myself out more. You know what? I guess we can roll to see how many words we have to do when we come back. Let's do that too. We have 45 minutes. When we come back, we have to do 50 words. Okay, so we'll do like a short break after that. Should be an easy round. It'll probably be a tough 50 words. Maybe I'll use that to go edit. All right, either way, I'll catch you later. Hello. I'm coming at you after a couple of rounds that I just kind of like didn't film. It's currently 3:45. I'm sitting at 5,315 words. I have teased out one of my critical works, the Casey Holloway one, and I am thinking of moving into my next major text, which is my escape narrative by William and Ellen Craft. So it's this one. I think I'm going to tease out this section. I'm not like looking at a whole large portion of this novel. My most important section is Ellen's passing, because if you don't know, in this story, we are following a couple who are escaping slavery through Ellen, the wife's ability to pass. And she specifically passes herself off as a white slaver who is taking her husband to travel during Christmas time. And they're actually using this as a means to escape into Pennsylvania, which was a slave-free state at the time. We are following that journey and how, if we were to follow just the historical record, Ellen disappears entirely. She is a slave and then she is completely gone. And then she adopts this persona who also disappears. Like, there's no actual record of her escape without this text and without like no record of her journey, because like the tickets and stuff don't exist. So I want to focus on that aspect. I actually have on my paper behind you the like time date windows that she explains, or I think it's William who's actually writing this, explains like when they leave, what happens, what they're doing. But because the historical record doesn't have those things, it didn't deem it as important. If we were to slowly rely on that, we are not able to get an accurate representation. That's that. I still need to find a way to connect in my other 3 critical texts. There's a couple places one could go, and I think I'm debating if I want to bring in my other 2 that are also kind of like focusing on this like lack of representation in the archive earlier in the paper, or later in my more kind of like, what the fuck do I mean? Or why the fuck is this all important in terms of the context of what I am trying to say? That's where I'm at, but I think I need a longer break. I'm not gonna roll. I think I'm just going to take like the hour 15. I'll come back at 5 and we'll run a couple more, break for dinner, and then see how much more we can get done today. I wouldn't say I'm running out of steam, but I think I hit a wall that I need to definitely take a step away from. And if I find myself hitting more of a wall in like writing out these things, I might go do some edits on comments I have and my, again, wall of sticky notes that I can then crumble up so they can no longer hurt me, because they hurt a little when I got them. Not gonna lie. That's the plan. I'm gonna go, again, take that break and play some more Zelda, because, you know, what's relaxing than playing the Water Temple and Ocarina of Time? I'll catch you later, that's for sure. It is currently, I guess I can show you, 7:11, and I have went way over my 50 word goal. I am at 460 words. Yes, 460 words exactly, which puts the total count at 5,834. So I'm officially 1,000 words in today, and I've hit kind of a stop in the sense of I feel like I'm not adding anything worthwhile, which means I really need to take a break. I was trying to finish off writing about the Crafts journey and like what I'm trying to say about it, but really and truly, I think I just need to walk away. I'm gonna leave myself a note actually, because I need to leave a caveat that because what I'm trying to say, and I'll explain this to you because maybe it'll knock something loose in my head. I said this in the last clip, I believe, where there's no like historical record or artifacts that we can use to say with certainty what train Ellen Craft and what train the Crafts took to escape to freedom. We have like ideas and conjecture and like likeliness of like what train it was, but we have nothing with certainty because those records do not exist. They were only kept at a local level, and that means like it was up to the company whether or not they kept a record in the first place, and then if that record would go on to survive. And while there exists some really small archives that like collect that history, by and large it does not exist. I think I'm done. I think I need to walk away from it. There's still another part of this book that I wanted to talk about, which was is fugitivity. How the fuck I'm gonna do that, I have no idea. That's gonna require some finagling and some transitioning on my part. I'm going to break for dinner. I've worked longer than I was planning to. I had finished the 50 words pretty soon after I've like sat back down, but I never took a break and I just kept going and going. And now it's been like 2 hours. So I'm going to get dinner. And you might be asking, Emily, what are you making for dinner? Nothing, because I'm not fucking cooking. That sounds like an awful idea. So instead, I'm going to go out and get food. What food that will be? Probably McDonald's, if I'm real honest with you, because there's nothing else that sounds super duper appealing. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna take another longer break, maybe an hour and a half, and then I'll come back and we'll do more work because we're gonna keep going. I think my cutoff time is going to be 10 or 11. I don't know which of the two I'm going to feel more like. So to make sure I still have time to work, I'm gonna go now. See you later. We've made it to the end. It is currently 10 o'clock exactly, I think. Or 2 minutes to. I'm calling it 10 o'clock exactly. I am calling it quits. I can't focus anymore. I don't want to write anymore. I want to be done. And you know what? I think I've earned it. Because we are ending our word count at 6,002 words. Which, if you remember what we started with, was, I believe, 4,771 words. Which, I did the math earlier. It's roughly 1,200 words. Which I think is pretty fucking good for a day. It's progress. Did I finish my case study? No, but I am at least halfway through it. I have to think about how I'm going to transition or where I want to put the second half, or at least the second idea into this, or if I want to cut that idea out entirely. I don't know. I'm not going to think about it right now because frankly, if I try, my brain's gonna just write mush, and editing Emily already hates past Emily or current Emily, so we're not gonna worry about that. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. I hope you guys kind of liked it. It was something a little different, not quite bookish, but bookish adjacent, because studying, reading for writing, it's all kind of mixed up. If you stuck around to the end, first off, you're a real one. I want you to go ahead and leave me a fountain pen emoji. Just because we're doing something very literary, very academic, and that feels like the vibe. And if you were watching this as you were getting work done, and you were body doubling, or you were using it as motivation, I hope you got so much done. But your girl's tired. She's been productive enough for one day. She's gonna go fuck off and do who knows what. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!